everyone, and welcome to the new moon in Pisces video. This new moon is on the 13th of March and it is going to be a new moon in Pisces along with the Sun, Venus and Neptune, the ruler of Pisces, all in this sign as well. There's a lot of emotional energy surrounding this new moon, and it's interesting because a new moon is where we plant seeds, it's about new beginnings, new intentions, and yet Pisces is the final sign of the zodiac wheel. It is where we go to transcend. It is a place we go to heal, to understand, to find closure and find resolve. And Pisces is a very spiritual energy. It's very much an energy of the unseen, what is felt, rather than what is seen or what is concluded practically or logically. Pisces is the ruler of the 12th house, and that is where institutions such as hospitals and prisons are, because it focuses very much on healing, rehabilitation, and resolve. And so with this new beginning being in a sign that is so associated with emotional healing, closure and transcendence, it is a new moon, a new beginning that is very real for everyone emotionally in how we feel, rather than necessarily the evidence we see around us. And so when this new moon occurs, it's very likely that most of us will feel some kind of shift. We'll feel some kind of closure, and we'll be able to close a chapter of the last year, because around the new moon in Pisces last year is whenever, everything started to become really very real and yet very much an illusion thanks to Neptune. Actually, last year, the conjunction between the Sun and Neptune, it's one where people can feel very scattered, they can feel very tired, they can feel very overwhelmed, very worried, or very rose-tinted, either or. With Venus being in the equation this time, there is a sense of unconditional love attached to this new moon and a lot of healing for a lot of people. In fact, if we think about the new moon in Pisces last year, chances are that it was a new beginning for many people who have ran away from themselves and haven't quite understood the power of their subconscious or what's really going on with them in an emotional sense. I certainly know that a lot of people that I know who were very busy people, consistently on the go, never really very reflective or indulgent in their emotions, I'll say, realized this year that there was a lot more going on below the surface than they realized. So I do think for many people, this time last year, the new moon was a beginning of healing for a lot of us. The addition of Venus this year gives it a much more pleasurable tone, that this new beginning is a revival, it is healing, it's based in unconditional love, it's based in a feeling of glamour, idealization and romanticization. And so this new moon is a time to consider how you want to feel, who you want to be, what fantasy you would like to live out in your life. And it's not necessarily that any of these things have to be what would typically be associated with Neptune, which would be the silver screen, which would be fame and fortune and great beauty or great wealth or great success or any of these things. It just has to be whatever makes you feel in a space of contentment and unconditional love, because sometimes the only way somebody wants to feel is content or is at peace. It's not necessarily always about manifesting a car or a house or any of these intentions. Your intention can simply be to just feel at peace, and I certainly think that a lot of people will have that intention around this new moon. It is a beautiful time of healing, it's a beautiful time of transcendence, and for many it will mark a turning point in your life where you realize that you are in the process of, or you are willing to, or maybe even you have overcome an emotional barrier that was maybe subconscious, that was maybe not known to you this time last year. You may have overcome a feeling of anxiety, you may have overcome a false belief. You may have overcome a delusion of yourself. And I do think that most people fall in the camp of self-delusion, being that they see themselves worse than they are, or they see themselves as less than they are. It is more common for us to talk about delusions of grandeur, but I think it is more common for people to feel delusions of inadequacy. And so this new moon with Venus is a beautiful time to see the beauty in yourself, to see the beauty in others, and to see the beauty in the world and what you would like to experience over the next 6 months, because it is going to be a very different time that is going to feel like a revival, like a transcendence. It's going to be a new beginning of peace, a new beginning of healing. And that's not to say in a worldwide view that everything is going to start being kumbaya. That's not at all what it is. It's just that there's an energy that you can tap into that can make you feel that peace. Of course, at the same time, Mars is in Gemini, so you might find that when you go online, you don't like people very much, or you might find that social media is a source of aggravation. And there's always that point with astrology, especially when we have signs like Pisces and Gemini, where there is a duality involved. There is always the choice of what energy you're pulling into. Certainly Pisces season is a lot more harmonious with Uranus and Taurus than Aquarius season was. And so while the Pisces season comes in and it can really cleanse us, wash away the sin, if you will, wash away the feelings that you don't want, wash away the psychic debris, practice spiritual hygiene, because human beings are very susceptible to their surroundings, some more than others, and I think those that feel more susceptible would be regarded as the empaths. But I do think most people contain that source of empathy, and a lot of people can indeed read a room, whether they're empathic or not. And so you have to pay attention to the energy, to the feng shui of where you are and what you're surrounding yourself with, and whether a new beginning would be good in those areas. Maybe you need to literally cleanse your space by cleaning it, by washing it, by opening a window, by burning herbs, whatever it is that you do. And some crystals actually that are quite good to tap into for Pisces season or Pisces new moon would be, of course, amethyst and lapis lazuli. There's always a little bit of an overlap between Aquarian and Pisces crystals, I think. And considering we still have Jupiter and Saturn in Aquarius, there is a blending of the two. So there is an opportunity to meet with the Aquarian forward thinking for the future energy, as well as the Pisces healing from the past. Both can be done at the same time. Sometimes healing from the past is what propels us forward. It's what brings us that new beginning. It's what draws in that sense of peace. And it would have been back in August, September last year, I can't quite remember the date, where the full moon in Pisces would have been. And the full moon in Pisces is oftentimes seeing what is unseen. It's a big reveal. But this new moon is an opportunity for you to tap into the energies of working with the unseen, whether that is through a tarot reading, whether that's through an astrology reading, whether that's through meditation, whether that's through therapy. In fact, the new moon in Pisces, if you are so willing, is a beautiful new time to commit to any kind of therapy. Reiki healing, talk therapy, CBT, anything that brings you closer to yourself, to have closure of the past, or have closure, or at least understand yourself better. Because, as I say, sometimes our perception of self, our illusions of ourself isn't necessarily so. Just because we have this strong feeling that it might be so, doesn't make it so. And there is a difference between intuition and anxiety. And people struggle a lot to differentiate between the two. So much so that the concept of trust your intuition is almost a decision to believe the worst. If you need to know the difference, intuition is just a calm knowing. Anxiety is a ferocious voice in your head, a feeling of sickness, a feeling of upset. There is a difference. And chances are a lot of people are walking around in the world trusting their anxiety. So this is a new moon to commit to healing your unconscious, healing your subconscious, healing the self, healing the soul, and deciding for yourself who you want to be going forward in your mind, body and soul, who you want to be on this next chapter, this next journey, and how you want to revive yourself and how you want to heal yourself. And if there's a particular issue in the dark of the moon, which would be the couple of days leading up to this new moon, or even in and around the new moon, because new moons are dark, let's not forget, they don't always feel easy. If there is something that's troubling you or something that is working against you, lean into it, see why you might feel that way, tap into your memories a little bit, see why this keeps coming up for you, or why it's very hard to go away. Oftentimes nothing goes away until it teaches us what we need to know. And if there is this little niggling feeling in your heart that you don't feel quite right with yourself, it might be because something needs your attention. It's a psychic itch, if you will, in how you need to heal yourself going forward, rather than there being some optic around you that is unsettling. So I'm going to do some animal spirit cards for this new moon instead. There is a video up of the March horoscopes where I go into the new moon for each sign, but I would like to do some animal spirit messengers instead for this one, because it is such a personal new moon for everybody, and it is a new beginning, of revival, of beauty, of peace, of love, especially unconditional love, because Pisces is actually the sign that represents unconditional love. There's a lot goes into the house that Pisces rules, trust me. As someone with transits in the 12th house, it's a very interesting house to read about. But there's a lot goes into it, so a lot of emotions do come up during Pisces season, and a lot of feelings can definitely present themselves, and a lot of past issues as well can present themselves. In fact, because this is a Pisces new moon, it is likely that there is a new beginning for a lot of people with the past. So we have the spider and the deer. Interesting. The spider card is the web that we weave for ourselves, the designs that we create around ourselves to feel safe or to feel supported, but sometimes can be a trap. Sometimes we can trap ourselves in our belief, in our minds. Sometimes we can trap ourselves unknowingly by our belief system, by our decisions. And there's always an opportunity to spin a new web. There's always an opportunity to create something new for ourselves that will be supportive and will be helpful. The deer energy is interesting. I actually was speaking to somebody about this recently. The deer energy is the mother. It is oftentimes when we are looking for ways to nurture ourselves, support ourselves, love ourselves, and to create. The deer is a very creative energy. So the spider asks us to be creative, how we are creating for ourselves in order to support ourselves, maybe financially, maybe spiritually, how we're taking care of ourselves and how we're nurturing our creative gifts. The spider is an energy that asks us to be playful, that asks us to be creative, that asks us to be engaged. And whenever we are not feeling that way, we feel discouraged and we feel tired. So this is asking how to support yourself in a way that feels delightful, in a way that feels playful, in a way that feels joyous and really taps into the spirit. It's interesting that the spider energy is often associated as well with prosperity, and how we create prosperity for ourselves through our creativity, how we bring creativity into the workforce. Even if you're an accountant, you know, there's a creative process goes into this. It's not all about being an artist, as would be associated with Pisces. Pisces energy would be associated with the spiritual healer, the artist, the musicians. But creativity is found in everything we do. If creativity wasn't found in everything we do, everything would just cease to exist. So it's asking you just how creative you are spiritually and even emotionally. What are the stories that you create in your head? What are the stories you create for yourself, your narratives? Because they impact your decisions, and then that impacts your life. So everything starts within the mind, just as the web starts with the spider. You're creating for yourself, and your thoughts and your beliefs and your perspectives matter in terms of what you're making for yourself. So this new moon is a time to decide and notice what you're making for yourself and what you'd like to stop making for yourself. That's just as important. What you would like to cease creating for yourself, be it a tangled web that you're weaving. It's time to start afresh and create something for yourself that makes you feel supported and makes you feel happy, content, and calm. The deer energy is representative of new life, a new way of living. It's often common in new parents. It is a peace, a calm, and an understanding of the beauty of a new beginning, birthing something into creation and really enjoying it. Much like we start with the spider and we create this web, the deer would be the energy of understanding and taking joy in it. The deer is actually very intuitive, but as we know, they can be fearful. It's interesting that when we think of the deer, we think of those nature shows or types of deer. You know, when they're running away from predators, or we think of Bambi. I'm sure a lot of people were traumatized by Bambi. I know I was. So we think of the deer as running away from prey, but the deer itself is actually quite intuitive, and they have very strong senses. So they can hear when danger is coming, and then they run. But something we don't see with deer so often is how after a traumatic event, such as a chase, when they escape, a lot of deers actually shake. They shake really violently to get the trauma and the anxiety and the fear out of their system. And so after a tough year, a lot of people have been in very tough situations, very unhappy situations. I think everybody has at least gone through some sort of change in their personal life, but also in their personal perspectives. There has been a need to nurture yourself and nurture your own talents and your own feelings. And so this new moon is a time to try and find some way of coping with that. As I say, maybe a healing process, that metaphorical shaking that the deer would do to release some of the feelings that have built up over time. But with the deer, what's so beautiful about this is that it calls for a new beginning, a new celebration of life, a new understanding, and a new way of living. And so this new moon and the cards really tap into that creative, playful spirit, that nurturing spirit that comes with Pisces season, and that need to transcend, and that need to be active in our choices of what we're creating for ourselves on the outside, but also on the inside. So I hope you enjoyed that new moon in Pisces video. I hope you have a really beautiful new moon, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.